Hey guys, welcome to Mystifying Miracles. Today I'm going to talk about a hitchhiking miracle that occurred in 1983. Stay tuned. A man named Barber, he was driving from Portland, Oregon to California on a business trip for work. It was the early winter of 1983. Jay was driving a Chevy custom van from his work. It had the captain's chairs, the swing table, the back bench that also laid out into a bed. You know the type if you were around back then. I know I remember those vans. As he came upon Cottage Grove, Jay says his alternator light lit up on the dashboard. And Jay still had a lot of driving to do at that point, so he decides to be safe and go ahead and take it in. Thankfully, he had just seen a billboard that had the sign Bud's Chevrolet dealership, and it was nearby. So he takes it in. Once he's there, he goes straight to the waiting room because it was going to be a wait, obviously. Since he was a walk-in, he had to wait for all those appointments before him. He sees a magazine on one of the end tables, so he picks it up and starts thumbing through it. And he reads a particular article. He didn't know it then, but this would be very crucial and very important. About a week later, it was a dark, cold December night, and Jay was on his way back home to Portland. He was antsy to get back there so he could see his family, his children. He had been gone well over a week on business. Snow and ice were lining the sides of the roads, and there were light snow flurries falling from the sky. And he had just gotten beyond the final exit to the town in Weed, California. And that's when he noticed these two figures just standing on the side of the road. One was holding their thumb out, and both of them were wrapped into a blanket. Now, Jay says he would never pull over to pick up a hitchhiker. I mean, obviously, that's not safe. However, Jay amazed himself because he just on a whim decides to slam on his brakes and pull to the side of the road. Jay checks his rearview mirror. He sees the two figures and he assumes it's a man and a woman, perhaps, a couple. Now, when Jay slammed on his brakes, he was already about 100 yards past them when he decided to do so. So he decides to lightly reverse so that he can meet them halfway. He gets out in the freezing cold wind, walks around, and he slides open the back van door for the two. And that's when he was quite shocked. As they got up close to him, he saw that it was actually two men wrapped in the blanket. And immediately, one of those men just thrust a bundle into Jay's arms. He looks down, thinking, what in the world? And he sees it's a very small child, a little girl. Her face was all blue, and it freaked him out. So Jay screams, "This child is dead." As soon as Jay says this, one of the men just starts screaming and sobbing hysterically, while the other man, he's climbing up into the van. Jay is just shocked by all this. Jay cranks up the heat. He gets in and he immediately, quote, tells them, "Get her cold and wet clothing off. You," and he points to the man that had been crying hysterically. He says, "You take off your coat, your shirt, get down to your bare skin. Put your body next to hers. You can lay on the back bench if need be. I'm going to rush to the hospital as quick as I can." And at first, the drive seemed quite hopeless to Jay because he didn't know where he was, and he didn't know it right then as they started to drive, but they had several miles to go to the next exit. It was just a lone stretch of highway with nothing around. As he's driving, Jay says he immediately begins to pray for the child. And while he's continuously, fervently praying, Jay says that's when he heard the most precious sound. Tiny little whimpering. The whimpering grew into a full-out scream. Turns out the baby was not dead after all, and she was going to be all right. As he continued to drive on, he finds out from the two men that the father of the child and his buddy, they lived in Corvallis, Oregon. The dad had actually just found out that he was the father of this little girl. In addition, he learned that the mother was going away to prison for a long time. He was told that unless he got down to Texas and claimed his parental rights, the child would be going away to a long-term foster care. The dad had no money, neither did the friend, but the friend was in support of him, so the two hitchhike all the way to Texas. They get the child and they hitchhike all the way back. And that's when this all occurred. As far as Jay knows, everything turned out fine. The little girl obviously was not dead and all was well. He took him to the hospital, but that was kind of the last of it. Jay says that to this day, he often thanks and prays for that little girl who would now be somewhere in the world in her 40s. Now, I know I've said this many times, and I stand on it. I do not believe in coincidences. And I can't end this story without telling one of the most crucial parts, in my opinion. Guess what the article was that Jay Barber was reading in Bud's Chevrolet dealership that day? It was an article on what someone would need to know and do to treat someone with hypothermia. What are the odds of that? So many working parts, for his car trouble, for instance, when the alternator light went off. Now, he could have been like, I'm working, I've got to do this and that. But he kind of took it in stride and he just did what he had to do. Like, who knew that it was going to happen right at that moment? God did. That Bud's Chevrolet dealership would be right nearby. God knew that magazine would be laying on the table and Bud would pick it up and read that article. It's just so many details. When I heard this story and I was reading through it, I was like, gosh, you just never know. Like in my own life, if I'm driving down the road, my car breaks down. Yeah, it's a hassle. But do we ever take a moment to think of, well, what could this mean? This is for a reason. Maybe it's saving my life from an accident that's occurring pretty soon up the street. You just never know. Or maybe it's like in Jay, his scenario, where right place, right time, and if he hadn't have been there and all that happened, that little girl would not be alive. I'm a deep thinker on those things. That's just me. I like doing that, and I love these miraculous stories. I hope you did too. I hope it was a blessing to you. Let me know what you think. And other than that, guys, thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. And I'm going to see you next time.